We all spend so much time chasing happiness, thinking it is the ultimate goal, right? But here's a little secret I've learned over time. Happiness is fleeting, and the more we try to grab onto it, the faster it slips through our fingers. What if instead of constantly reaching for happiness, we learn to focus on something deeper and arguably more important? Contentment. Contentment is about accepting where you are and finding peace in that space. It doesn't mean you don't have goals or that you're settling. It means you're not constantly looking for something else to make you feel good. Once you reach contentment, everything else, including happiness, flows a lot more naturally. There are probably several of you out there who disagree with me on this. A year ago, I might have been one of them. If you still disagree after you hear what I have to say, please, absolutely, prove me wrong. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Rachel, a 2-time cancer survivor with a simple goal: helping you live your healthiest, happiest life in the simplest ways possible by sharing what I've learned and keep learning along the way. If that appeals to you at all, or you just want to occasionally argue philosophy with me, give me a follow. Now, I am not a Buddhist, but man, a lot of the teachings I am totally on board with, especially this idea of dukkha, which is basically suffering. Buddhists believe that suffering is an inevitable part of life, even in pleasant things, and a lot of it comes from always wanting things to be different than they are. Think about that for a second. The more we crave change or something better, the more we struggle. The more we chase happiness, the more we suffer because we're never satisfied. But when you let go of that craving and just accept things as they are, you reach this sense of peace. And that, my friends, is where contentment comes in. It's that freedom from constantly wanting more. It lets you feel at ease with yourself and your life, even if things aren't exactly what you want. And honestly, that is where the magic happens. When you are not constantly striving for happiness, you open up the space to enjoy where you are and what you have. And when you do that, guess what? Happiness follows naturally. The best kind. Happiness that isn't tied to external stuff. It's kind of funny. When I was making notes for this video, I made myself a cup of tea, and the tag on it said, "Accept who you are in the moment, but acknowledge who you want to become." Perfect timing, right? I heard Dan Harris say something once that really resonated with me. He is a former news anchor and the guy behind the 10% Happier podcast. He said, "The pursuit of happiness becomes the source of our unhappiness." And honestly, he's right. We treat happiness like it's some kind of prize, but the chase is exhausting and it's never ending. The more we chase it, the more hurdles we set up for ourselves. Happiness is fleeting. Contentment is steady. Happiness is like fireworks, bright, exciting, and over before you know it. It's usually tied to external things, right? Like if I get this house, these clothes, this vacation, this job, whatever it is, then I'll be happy. But that kind of happiness doesn't last. Before you know it, you're chasing the next thing, and God forbid you don't get it, then you're angry or blaming yourself or others for why you're not happy. Contentment, though, that is totally different. It's about finding peace with where you are, even if you're still working on improving things. And here's the crazy part, I'd argue you cannot truly find happiness if you're not content first. Once you're content, everything falls into place. You stop feeling like you have to chase the next big thing because you're okay with where you are now. Take me, for example. I used to chase happiness by trying to do everything, cramming every possible get fit fast trend into my routine, keeping up with my friends, trying to impress them. And even with this channel, thinking, if I could just get monetized, then I would be happy. But once I let that go and embraced contentment, being at peace with just showing up for myself, that's when things started happening more naturally. Suddenly, working out became less about pressure and more about progress. Those friends, some stayed in my life, some didn't. My channel, it's growing, slowly, but I've made connections with people, and some have reached out saying something that I shared really resonated with them. That is what matters, and I don't think that I could have been satisfied with that if I weren't content with where I am. Another reason I'm big on contentment, it's the secret to staying in your lane. When you're chasing emotional highs, it gets so easy to get caught up in comparing yourself to others. Whether that's in life or fitness or how put together someone else's life looks on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. But let's be honest, chasing those highs or any other unrealistic idea is exhausting. Contentment gives you freedom from that comparison trap. You stop checking Instagram or Facebook every 5 minutes. You're not constantly posting or looking for validation. And guess what? You get your time back. You're less stressed. You feel less inadequate. And here's the kicker. You stop caring what other people think of you or your life. You are living for you, not for likes or validation from others. When you're content, you stop worrying about everyone else's business and you focus on your own. What's going to work for you today? Maybe it's a workout. Maybe it's a rest day. Or maybe it's just managing to get out of bed and stretch. Contentment allows you to be okay with whatever that looks like. Here's the big one. Contentment helps you find motivation without the constant pressure of happiness. We often think that we need to feel great to take action, but the truth is, we don't. You don't need to be in an amazing mood to do what's right for you. You just need to be in the right headspace, and that doesn't mean feeling happy 24/7. When you're content, you're motivated because it's not about chasing emotional highs. It's about doing what's best for you, even on the days when you don't feel 100%. Contentment keeps you going when happiness is out of reach. It gives you the steady foundation to show up day after day without the pressure to feel a certain way. And remember, being in the right headspace doesn't mean life is all rainbows and unicorns. It means giving yourself permission to have off days, bad moods, or rough weeks without convincing yourself that life just sucks and you're failing. It's about saying, okay, today is rough, but I am still doing the best I can. That is the mindset that keeps you consistent. Life isn't perfect. In fact, sometimes it's a total dumpster fire. We have all been there. But when life throws those curveballs at us, instead of panicking, try cozying up next to the fire, grab a blanket, and make some s'mores. I know, it's a stupid analogy, but I like it. You can't always control what happens around you or to you, but you can choose how you respond. Gratitude, even in the chaos, is like that warm blanket that keeps things in perspective. It's not about fixing everything, but finding one small thing to be grateful for shifts your mindset from frustration to acceptance, which, surprise, surprise, leads to contentment. Now, don't get me wrong. Contentment doesn't mean settling or giving up on your goals. It's not about throwing in the towel and saying, this is as good as it gets. Quite the opposite. When you're content, you have built a stable foundation that allows you to grow, try new things, and make progress without feeling like you're on this treadmill chasing happiness. Contentment means setbacks won't throw you as much because your baseline isn't reliant on feeling happy all the time. It's knowing you'll be okay, even when things aren't perfect. So, how do we cultivate this whole elusive contentment? Well, here's a few steps. First, practice mindfulness. Spend a few minutes each day simply being present. Focus on your breath. Notice your thoughts and your feelings. And when your mind wanders, and it will wander, just bring it back to your breath. We all have this inner dialogue going on, and I am not saying we have to quiet. I'm saying we have to acknowledge it and move on. Mindfulness and meditation are a really good way to do that. Meditation isn't just sitting in a room, cross-legged on the floor, chanting and clearing your mind. Maybe it is for some people, but not for most of us. That is virtually impossible. Me, I sit in a chair. Sometimes I close my eyes. Sometimes I watch the sunrise or something else and focus on my breathing. When my mind wanders or starts singing Yellow Submarine, which it does a lot, don't ask, I finish the tune and I go back to focusing on my breath. Next, start a gratitude practice, whether it's journaling or saying it to yourself or out loud. Come up with at least 3 things you're grateful for each and every day. It could be something as simple as a good cup of coffee, or your health. You woke up today, or the fact that you made it through the day without throat punching someone. Next, set realistic goals. Break your larger goals into smaller, achievable steps, and then celebrate your progress, no matter how small it is. Limit comparisons. Make a conscious effort to stay off social media for a while, or unfollow accounts that trigger stress or make you feel inadequate. Don't watch the news if you find yourself yelling at the television. Yes, it's me. I do that. Let's face it, that is the cause of a lot of our discontent. Then show yourself some self-compassion. Treat yourself the same way you would a friend. It's okay to mess up. Just move on. Life gets messy. Accept it and keep going. This one's really hard because we are our own worst critics. But once you can, life becomes infinitely better. So here's the big takeaway. The next time you're feeling frustrated because you're not as happy as you think you should be, stop and ask yourself, am I chasing happiness or am I cultivating contentment? The shift in perspective might just be the thing that makes all the difference in the world. You don't have to pursue happiness to find joy in life. By choosing contentment, you are setting the stage for growth, progress, and yes, even happiness without all the pressure. If you can do that, the rest will follow. Because contentment, it's what gives you the foundation to handle whatever life throws at you without getting thrown off course by every bump in the road. If this resonated with you, give me a thumbs up and hit that follow button. If you disagree, absolutely, prove me wrong, please. As always, thanks for watching. Take care of you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.